to pleasure.
Hello, I'm Donna Marie Nudd, and I'm a professor at Florida State University in the School of Communication. My major area of expertise is performance studies, and Terry Galloway is my partner of 30 years. And we've worked collaboratively on a lot of different projects. I've served as director and dramaturg for her 3 solo shows that have toured nationally and internationally. And this week we're about to embark to Liverpool, where I'm working as co-director and dramaturg and the creative producer for Terry's new musical, The Ugly Girl, a musical tragedy in burlesque that is on tour in the UK in November.
I'm Terry Galloway, a deaf lesbian performance artist and activist who uses theater as a site for community activism. And if you'd like to know more, feel free to buy my memoir, Mean Little Deaf Queer, and get it at Amazon or from Beacon Press. 3 years ago, I got a cochlear implant that allowed me to hear my mother's voice for the first time since I was 9. I told myself once I could hear, I'd learn Portuguese, but instead I wrote a musical, the one Donna mentioned, The Ugly Girl, featuring an international cast of actresses, activists with disabilities. I've worked hard to love my life and to have a life I could love and to take pleasure in it. It hasn't been easy, safe, or profitable, but it has been a lot of fun whenever I could shrug off the contemptuousness of the world's stare that puts you in your place. Let me give you an example. The graduating seniors in my high school I attended were all being advised about life after graduation. All of my friends were told to apply to Harvard, to Yale, to Princeton. When my turn to be advised, the counselor took one look at me and said, "Oh, you're the one," and gave me a brochure that read, "Errors and all, factory work, make good job for deaf." I knew even then that what had happened in that office was a failure of imagination. I took refuge from that failure of imagination by turning to theater, primarily alternative theater, because the people there were welcoming and they were nothing if not imaginative, and the very nature of theater, live, communal, emotional, chatty, lends itself to pleasure. My 45 years of working happily in that medium confirmed a belief that I share with Donna, that when it isn't just a business or simply an entertainment, when it isn't afraid of itself or what it may have to say, theater is still our most passionate, engaged, uncensored dialogue with ourselves, about ourselves. And I also confirm our shared belief that if theater is to remain vital, true to itself and true to its communities, it needs to learn how to bring more people like me, disabled, queer, imperfect, and yearning, into that dialogue.
And that is why 28 years ago, Terry and I co-founded the all-volunteer Mickey Faust Club. The leader of the Mickey Faust Club, a merry band of mischief makers, is ostensibly Mickey Faust, played by Terry, who is a gender-bending, foul-mouthed, cigar-chomping, beer-guzzling, rat bastard brother of that other unctuous rodent in Orlando. Every year, Faust produces 3 cabaret shows, radio hours, video shorts, and an array of other community celebrations and festivals like Shakespearity in the Square. Terry serves as artistic director of the company, and I serve as the executive director. Given the panel's theme of pedagogy and pleasure, we wanted to focus today on 4 teaching aspects of Faust, the ones that fuel our fun and sometimes our fury. First, Faust is inclusive. We'll work with anyone who walks through the door, no matter their skill level. Because Terry and I are queer, we've attracted a lot of queers, and because Terry was deaf, she's always made absolutely sure that people with disabilities of every kind feel welcome on our stage. We're not diverse in every category, but we are always diverse when it comes to sexuality, disability, religion, age, and income. Second, the overall teaching method of the company is intensely collaborative. Writers at whatever skill level bring scripts to and ideas to a writer's meeting and get tons of immediate feedback. Sometimes a writer will team with others to collaborate, or sometimes a Fausketeer will just hand off their concept for someone else to write. And writers, too, can't get very precious about their scripts because every script gets transformed by the actors and directors in rehearsal. In terms of rehearsal, that, too, is immensely collaborative. If there's 6 skits and 5 musical pieces in a show, most likely there's a different director for each piece. And directors can't get too attached to their directing because seasoned performers are never shy about telling directors when a concept just isn't working. And newer members are encouraged to be, and often are, just as outspoken.
What we want to stress here is that at both the writing and the rehearsal stages, both the vets and the new cast members work to teach each other.
Third, all this teaching is free to the community. Anybody who joins us finds themselves in this inclusive, for the most part, democratic company where they learn a hell of a lot for free about writing and performance. And what, fourth, is being written and performed is what is on our minds. And that focus on original writing is the most thrilling aspect of the company to me.
Okay, and Fausketeers have a lot to say about everything. Transgender bias, unqualified politicos bullying their ways into becoming university presidents, the NRA stranglehold on the USA, toxic corporate greed, oppressed Walmart employees, and pooping at work, all of which we took on in our last cabaret.
Now, sometimes there's a kind of dismissal of this type of radical theater that it's preaching to the converted. But what we want to undermine that critique today, first, Faust audiences are actually never just diehard fans. There's a Tallahassean who reads the local paper and sees a photo of a large human rat smoking a cigar and decides to come to the show. There's also people who...
The parents who are visiting, and they want to see what their insurance salesman, a middle-aged son, what he's been passionately involved with in all of these years.
Or the lesbian cast member with CP who invites her very straight Christian neighbor...
Who also has CP.
...to the Queer as Faust show.
Yeah. You take any Faust cabaret over the last 28 years, and I can guarantee you that there'll be people in that audience who have never experienced anything quite like it.
But yes, there's also, of course, our die-hard fans.
Well, but you see, in the Deep South, if your politics are radical, you feel besieged. Not just because you're bullied by conservative policies that can shape your lives, but because so often you are losing and losing and losing. The constant sense of loss is one of the reasons that we choose humor as our community pedagogical tool.
And humor is exactly what we used, for example, in the year 2000. Flashback, for 3 months, the nation argued as to who won the national election. Was it Gore? Was it Bush? CNN, BBC, Fox were in the 3 major cities, Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, and Tallahassee, Florida. As the votes were recounted and lawyers were jockeying and protesters were protesting and judges were judging, and
we
lost.
Talk about demoralizing.
But the Mickey Faust Company rallied, and there was the inaugural ball.
B-A-W-L, boo-hoo-ho.
We pulled together our politically charged skits, both old and new, and our beleaguered community really needed to see Lady Liberty at the bar, singing about the sorry state of America, drinking heavily, having one more for her country and one more for the road.
Our community needed to see the Supreme Court justices doing it can as they danced in their skivvies and reveled that the Constitution's safely in our hands. So there.
It was a long and raucous evening that let us and our audience bemoan, laugh, and even celebrate our collective loserdom. By the end of that evening, everyone felt re-energized and nobody felt alone.
We hope it brings other people pleasure to know that we are the small, obscure, radical theater group founded by two lesbians 28 years ago, right in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and that we're still here. We're still fighting a good fight, and we're still of good cheer.